Hello Europa Universalis players, my name's Riemann, and today I want to share a crazy discovery. It's safe to say that EU4 is one of the most intricate games ever made. Even after thousands of hours playing it, I'm still surprised by some of the goofy strats being devised. Recently there was a post on Reddit about one of the more obscure Native American nations. I'd rarely ventured into the Western Hemisphere for my starting nation, so I decided to give it a go. Lo and behold, it's one of the goofiest and most fun strats around, relying on abusing several mechanics to get extremely overpowered. So here is my guide on why the mighty nation of Caddo is one of the most powerful empires in the game. The goal of this strategy is to combine the powerful generic native ideas with the extremely powerful Nahuatl religion. Normally, the game restricts you to having one or the other. Generic native ideas are quite powerful, but are balanced by the mediocre totemist religion, which forces you to drop thousands of points into reforms that eventually disappear. Likewise, the Nahuatl get an extremely powerful religion, but it's counteracted by mediocre ideas. Combining the two, however, not only gives you the best of both worlds, but also synergizes extremely well, creating an unstoppable juggernaut of military force. Some of the highlights are the free colonist, the 25 colonial growth, a whopping 30% reduction in stability cost, -2 unrest, -0.05 war exhaustion, 15% manpower recovery speed on top of the 20% global manpower modifier, 5% discipline, a massive 25% increase to morale, and to top it all off, ideas are 10% cheaper. Just to give you a sense of how ridiculously good these all are, let me illustrate with a few examples. The discipline and the 2 manpower ideas are all very solid. The colonial growth, unrest reduction, war exhaustion reduction, and idea cost reduction are all tied with the best ideas in the game for that category. The dual stability cost reduction and land morale ideas combined are actually greater than any other single idea in that area, with the morale bonus being particularly notable by being greater than the morale of both France and Prussia. Moreover, the sum of all the bonuses you'll receive is made even greater since they all go towards the twin goals of colonizing and conquest. The European majors have good ideas, but they're usually spread out all over the place, some in diplomacy, some in land warfare, some in naval warfare, some in trade, etc. But Caddo gets to direct all its power to making a massive empire. So how does this strat work? First, we need some preparation. Caddo starts with an undetermined ruler because there isn't much historical documentation on the subject. To get around this, EU4 randomly generates a leader at the start of the game. You can exploit this by simply restarting the game if you don't get a ruler you like. It's worth doing this until you have a leader that's 4 or better in all categories, especially in military. Native Americans aren't rich enough to afford advisors, and the randomly generated leader is usually quite young, being 18 to 20 in every game I tried. This means that your leader is going to be the main source of monarch points for quite some time, so try to get somebody good. Once you have a good leader, phase 1 of the plan involves the Great Migration southwards. Caddo starts with a mission to migrate to Hassanai. Take it, then immediately move there when you unpause. Then, as soon as your migration cooldown refreshes, you'll want to move south to Aish, then across Galveston Bay to Barado, and finally into Tamaulipas. This gets you next to Totonac and gets you ready for the next phase. Before I cover that, however, we need to talk about what you should be doing during the migration. First off, put all your military monarch points into technology. It's important to get it up to at least level 3 to get the plus 0.5 morale, which is a massive boost to your early warring potential. The institutions mechanic means technologies are now only 50% more costly for Native Americans at the start of the game. Combine this with points you get from migrating and a good leader, and this is easily possible within a few years. Diplomatic points should be put towards building mercantilism, because when you reform your religion, you get 80% of the tech of the neighboring nation you're modernizing from, so putting points into techs that you don't need is a bit of a waste. Also, avoid putting points into native advancements, because you'll lose them when you switch religions. Next, while on your journey southwards, you should battle the tiny tribes around you like Wichita and Osage, stealing their money or humiliating them for monarch points as you see fit. It's okay if you don't have a casus belli. Declare war on them anyways because negative stability is actually a good thing. It decreases the time to the next migration, and the downsides for a tiny tribe are quite small. Abuse this fact to migrate as quickly as possible and continue beating up on one province miners in between migrations for easy pickings. Phase 2 is to take over the province of Cholula. It's only a few provinces away from the landing in Tamaulipas, but you might have to go through a few nations to get to it. Fortunately, you have Military Tech 3, and you can exploit the fact that you're still totemist at this point to put down the building that gets you plus 10 land force limits. Mass numbers and good morale should be more than enough to break through the enemy with ease. Fight your way through, but make sure to not take more than 4 or 5 provinces to avoid future problems with Doom. When you take Cholula, there is an event that will occur pretty shortly afterwards that will give you the option to convert to Nahuatl. Phase 3 involves doing the reforms for Nahuatl so you can compete with Europeans when they arrive. In a normal game, this would require battling the difficult Mesoamerican empires and waiting out truces, but we have a way around this by exploiting another game mechanic. Paradox clearly intended the reforms to be done through vassalizing the Mesoamericans, and gives you a special casus belli to do so. However, the game does not actually require that the vassals be Mesoamerican at all, and since Caddo starts with all of North America seen, it gives you a lot more options to work with. You can declare war without a casus belli and vassalize any tiny isolated OPM you see, creating a much easier and faster path to completing the religious reforms. Again, you get the best of both worlds here. You avoid paying thousands of monarch points to reform the totemist religion, while also avoiding the difficulty of the Nahuatl. This should allow you to complete all 5 reforms decades before your nation borders are European for you to fully modernize. While you're waiting, you can annex the rest of the Nahuatl nations now that Doom is no longer a concern, and start colonizing the empty areas around you with the free colonist you get. Once you border a European colony, you can reform instantly for no cost. At this point, the world is basically your oyster. Caddo has one of the fiercest militaries on the planet, a bevy of ideas to suppress revolts, free missionary strength from a decision and a free missionary from controlling Cholula, an economy backed by the highest concentration of gold provinces in the world, an unnaturally high mercantilism ripe for hijacking Asian trade, and an uncontested lockdown of the extremely expensive trade goods of the New World, like sugar, cocoa, and dyes. Furthermore, expansion opportunities are easier and more open than basically anywhere. What's not an empty province waiting to be colonized is held by either the now pathetically weak Native Americans or by colonial nations with masters that are usually too preoccupied to send their entire military in the event of conflict. In my game, I conquered basically the entire Western Hemisphere by 1800. I even turned the tables on the colonizers by invading much of Western Europe just for fun. This was all done without minimaxing anything. The insane morale buff alone was enough for me to pummel nations that I should have had absolutely no business defeating. Becoming a big brown blob was some of the most fun I've had with EU4 in ages, and I recommend it to anyone who has a solid grasp on the game. That's all for today. My name's Riemann, and until next time, thanks for watching.